All right, welcome everybody. It is your co-host Kenny Bhullar here with my boy Qashus and with honestly one of our favorite people on earth, on and off the air. We have our boy Shawn Kanungo in the house.
Gentlemen, I am back. Last time we got together, by the way, it was the 100th episode. And I don't know what episode this is, but doesn't matter. We're doing this again in a theater. We're here at the Art Gallery Alberta Theater. And man, I got this new book out.
Man, we have
What do you think?
Right here.
What do you guys think?
I'm excited to start reading this right away, man. Like, I remember you wanted to call this the dangerous ones.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? And now we're switching it up to the bold ones. And man, I just remember in our like sessions together.
Yeah.
Right? Like while you're pumping iron, you were telling me a few pieces around, you know, why this is so important for you, especially wrapped around the conversation of, you know, disruption and what you're talking about and preaching every day. But something I want to bring it back to, Shawn, is like sharing with our audience what inspired you to write the bold ones in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, why go about taking all the time in which you have hours on end outside of what you're doing to write a book right now?
Yeah. No, that's a good question. And by the way, to preface on the dangerous one, it used to be called the Dangerous Ones. I actually sold it to the publisher, sold it to my literary agent as the Dangerous Ones. And then they came back to me and they said, like, this title might be a little bit too dangerous. Like, what if somebody picks it up and they think it's like for serial killers or something? And I was like, the point is that it is dangerous. I wanted to show people, you know, how to be a dangerous person, which is like, how do you upskill? How do you learn new ways of doing things? How do you innovate? How do you disrupt? How do you be bold at the end of the day? To me, that's about being dangerous. You know, you talk about people being a little bit more dangerous, but they were worried that people might pick up this book and be like, Dangerous Ones, is this like for serial killers? And I was like, let it be for serial killers because Netflix is just reality shows and serial killers. People love it. But anyways, no, the reason why I wanted to write this book is because, should I hold this the entire time? To me, it was the idea that, you know, I really wanted people to embrace the fact that anybody can be an innovator, anybody can be a disruptor, anybody can, whether you're within an organization or you're outside of an organization, like how do you go off and like disrupt what you're doing, disrupt industries, disrupt your company. And I really want to dissect a whole bunch of disruptors to see how did they go out and do it? Like how did historical figures do it? How do people within pop culture do it? And yeah, I want to write this book. I would say this, I want to ask you because, you know, a lot of what you talk about and your podcast is actually about this book. It's actually about, like, how do you go off and innovate in your own practice? Like, you guys just dropped an episode, this debate, right, between entrepreneur. I don't know how long you guys recorded this, but, like, you know, what does it mean to be an entrepreneur, right? And you were talking about, man, like it's amazing to be an entrepreneur because you have all the systems and the processes to go off and innovate. You're talking about now you have your own thing, you have your own kingdom that you can run and do things. So to me, this book is for you guys. It's both for the entrepreneur and the entrepreneur.
Yeah, I like how it's for both, right? Because I find too many people are going to categorize someone who's quote unquote bold in doing something that not everyone can do, right? And I argue that you need to look at seeing what it is that you specialize in, what it is that you have so much love for doing, and how you plan on being bold within doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Because
and that's a good point, which is how do you be world class at what you do, right? In your particular niche. And I don't know if you feel like that, Omid, like, you know, that are you feeling now that you're world class? Because I want to get to you, Kenny, because I think you might feel like you're world class in what you do, but do you feel like you're world class in what you do? Because I believe everyone can be world class in what they do.
Yeah, I think obviously you go with the mindset of being world class, and you're always pursuing that. And I think you know, I'm very proud of the work that I've done, but I think there's always that next level. How can you quote unquote disrupt or innovate continuously, because the environment changes. You know, every year things are changing, platforms are changing. How do you stay ahead of that curve, or quote unquote, you know, be different or be bold and try different things and experiment? Just the same way as you know, doing the keynotes in an empty theater, and that's innovative. That's different. You don't see that every day, and I see a lot of artists and guys in the podcast realm. I study these different types of individuals, and they're doing things that are different. Some of them are doing things that are different, not just a classic, just throw on mics and have a conversation. They're doing things different. They're adding different things, and that's the continuous thought process. How do you be continuously creative and innovative?
Yeah. So what about you? Do you think you're world class at what you do? I want to know.
I think I'm on the continuous pursuit of becoming world class.
Okay.
Right? I find if I, right now in my current stage of life, accept that I'm the best at what I do, I'm no longer going to show up the same way I've been showing up this whole entire time getting there.
Right.
It's like, for example, they say this a lot in mixed martial arts. How different is it when you're defending the title compared to fighting for doing whatever you can to get the title, right? Kind of like that challenger versus the one that already has it. And you need to look at, if you already have that title, if you already are having this resume that's under your name of all the things you've done, you're not necessarily walking in with recognizing you're better than everybody. Like, the way I look at it is, I'm walking in so that by the time I'm done this, there's more respect earned. There's more of an understanding that I'm still walking in like the underdog. I like that mentality because that's what allows me to still...
Keeps you hungry.
Well, it keeps me hungry and it allows me to still recognize that I still need to prove something to myself, right? I find too many times if we compare, then we're no longer focused on what we need to do to get better. So a lot of things that I've just been focusing on lately is, okay, when I do lose, because that's going to happen, and it might not be an immediate loss, Shawn. It might just be something where I felt like I didn't perform to the best of my ability. I start to dissect that a little bit.
Yeah.
I start to look into saying, okay, well, where did that loss start happening? Where could I have made a specific change in the way I showed up and in the way I started to perform a certain technique, right? But I personally feel like it's kind of like that debate between what's cocky and what's confident.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's a fine line between both. And I'll ask both of you guys, like, what do you think you are when you show up? Are you like, okay, if I show up cocky, I'm going to show up my best self? Or if I show up confident, like, what does that look like to you?
I think when it comes to yourself, you should be cocky. When others perceive you or how they look at you, they should see you as confident, right? But in your mind, you should be like, I am the GOAT. I'm walking into my field like I am the GOAT. And to be honest with you, when I walk on stage or I'm doing a virtual keynote, I literally tell myself the entire time, I am the GOAT. I literally melt this in my own mouth. I don't want to tell this to the world, but I say it to myself that I am the GOAT of this thing. I am going to absolutely crush this thing, and that's it. So in my mind, I'm the GOAT, but I don't want anybody to perceive that because I know it'll come off as cocky. So to me, it's like you have to be cocky for yourself. I don't know about what you
Yeah,
think.
no, I totally agree with that. Same thing with us, man. When I'm on stage or going before a performance, same thing, same idea. I totally agree with that. So,
how much does preparation allow you to show up that way? Because I know for a fact, and this is something that people need to understand. Shawn is like, what word do I even use, man? Like, he is relentless when it comes to preparation, right? Like those late nights before a keynote. It's everything that people don't see.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And when someone makes it look so easy, this is funny, the world we live in now, right? Is when someone makes something look so easy, everyone goes, oh, I could do that too if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Right? But it's like, it's those reps, man. It's like all that time you put in to make it look that easy.
Yeah. No, I'm a psychopath. I'm a psychopath. No, I think if you want to be the best at what you do, you have to be a psychopath. Like, you have to be putting, like, I'll go, for example, like, I'll go traveling to different cities. People are like, oh man, you're like in Spain, you're in Dubai, you're like here and there. Like, I'm not looking at the city at all. Like, I'm in my room. I'm in the gym, right? Not the actual gym. We'll talk about that later. Yeah. But no, I'm working. I'm putting in the work, right? And because I want to be the best. I want to show up like I'm prepared. And maybe it's still that that hunger that I'm still in that. I'm still the underdog, right? And I want to have that mentality the entire time. But no, I'm putting in the work. So
I like that you say that. So,
but by the way, you asked us if we were confident and cocky. What about you? Because even when you get into MMA, right? You've been getting into all these competitions lately, and competing at a very, very high level. Are you walking into that competition saying, "I'm gonna kill this motherfucker"? Like, are you?
So you know what? This changed for me quite recently, and it works in my benefit. Is I go in like I'm playing, like I go in as though I don't hype up the competition at all. So the thing is, I realize that when I try and hype myself up,
Interesting.
I start to get overly excited. My heart rate's going up. My CNS activation is going up. I'm in fight or flight. I'm like, right? I'm like so excited. But then it's like, I need to save that for when I'm actually on the mats competing.
Interesting.
So I show up the same way I show up to practice. I play my big pun. I play my beats. I got a big smile on my face. I'm going in very joyfully.
Yeah.
And this was some advice I got from like masters in the sport. This one guy, Professor Cobrinha, right? And then another person who I really admire is Sadhguru. I just kind of combined a lot of what they say, where it's like when you have one eye on the outcome, you're now, half your attention's gone. So go in and play joyfully. Focus on playing. And then the result will happen, right? It's a whole concept between am I outcome focused or am I process focused?
So your mindset entering into your field of craft is you're in the state of play.
Exactly. I'm going in because I love doing it. I'm not going in because I'm trying to prove something to myself or anybody.
Interesting.
And when I did that, man, wow, like the difference, right? I actually am having more fun.
Right.
There's been stages where I find I put so much pressure on an event, or I put so much pressure on what needs to happen based off what people expect of me, right? I feel like that happens more as we get better or more known for what we're doing.
Right.
We attach an expectation of how people feel like we need to show up.
Right.
But then I'm like, okay, well, when I'm in practice, I'm not even thinking that. I'm just thinking of getting better. So what am I going to do in this competition to get better is I'm just going to...
See, I look at it a little different. Like, if you are prepared, if you put in the work, then when you show up, to me, it's a game. Then you have play, right? Like, I look at somebody like Steph Curry, and Steph Curry has put in the effort. He's put in the work. And his body he's got one of the best bodies in the NBA. He's obviously put in the reps around his shot. But when you see him play, he's totally playing. He's in flow, right? It's just magic, right? And I think that's what also I'm trying to do is that I put in all the work so that when I show up to something, it's play. It's like I'm in flow. Like you can see this guy is dialed in, and he's so dialed in that he's just fucking with you. That's where I want to be all the time. It's like I'm so prepared that I can improvise. You know what I mean?
I want to know this. Like what is it that scares you the most about this book launching and the possibility of it failing?
Yeah.
Like what is it about you being? Because this to me, when you put out a book, I can't imagine how vulnerable that is.
Yeah.
Right? Because you want it to go so well. But like, do you have any thoughts or doubts of it not going well? And I'm sure that's not the case. But if it does, how would you respond to that?
To me, this is already a win, right? To me, I obviously have a lot of pressure in terms of making sure that this sells because I am somebody that is like I have my own like insecurities and vulnerabilities. Like I want people to like me. That's my problem. And unfortunately, there's way too many people that are invested in this, which is my publisher, my agent. Like there's a lot of people that need to feed their own families because of this. So obviously, I want this to be a success, and I'm incentivized for this to do well, and I'm putting in the effort to make that happen. It's like I don't want to. It's like I've already won with this. I just don't want to fail the people that are around me that are depending on this to be a success at the end of the day, right? So to me, putting this out is a success. I don't want those people to let those people down, and that's like that's an own vulnerability that I have. I want to make sure that everyone is happy. But yeah, absolutely. The other thing is, somebody might read this and be like, "The hell, this was not valuable" or whatever, right? And that's disappointing. But I know not everyone's gonna like your stuff, right? I realized that just by putting out content. Not everyone is going to mess with it, right? But at least the 80 or 90% that do, I mean, that's for them. If you read a couple chapters, you didn't like it, that's fine. Maybe the book wasn't for you.
That's respect, man.
I'm curious, maybe speak on the book a little bit if you can.
Yeah.
Before the launch, but like what is the most controversial part of the book? I'm curious, like what is that, like the meat and potatoes of that?
Okay,
if you can
so
go into it.
you want the real stuff or the most controversial?
I'd love to know. Yeah.
Okay, so the most controversial part of this book is that I'm trying to include people that are modern day innovators and old school innovators, right? So when you're including modern day innovators, sometimes things happen. Like, I'll give you an example. There's a small piece, very small piece, not a big story. There's a very small piece where I include Kanye in here. There's a very small piece where I include Sam Bankman-Fried. He's the guy that just had the FTX collapse. He's basically is one of the biggest fraud artists of course I wouldn't include him in the book if I knew that today. But there's also a chapter in my book around the paradox of piracy, the idea of, when you're so bold, sometimes what happens is you start to believe your own shit. You start to believe your own greatness. If you don't have an advisory team around you, then you get caught. So if you look at somebody like Kanye or Sam Bankman-Fried, who I included they're very small pieces in this book, they got caught in their own stuff. And the controversy around this guy SBF, anyways, long story short, you guys are probably not too familiar with it, but he basically took his customer deposits for his crypto exchange, and you're not supposed to do that, right, if you have an exchange. And so he's defrauded like so many people. But that's not the piece that I talk about. I talk about this piece that he's actually brilliant at, which is he's a trader. He discovered this small secret where he found this. He was able to find that in Japan they were selling crypto at a higher price than they were in the US. So he just used that brilliant arbitrage to make his billions of dollars, which is still like what I call a secret. He found a secret. And every single innovation starts as an innovation because it discovers a secret. And so, anyways, that's the only thing I want to put in that I wanted to put in the book. But there's a lot of disruptors that I include in this book. Jordan Peterson. I talk about just a small piece around the Nelk boys. I talk about Xing Shi. She was like a hooker. She was a stripper. She became one of the biggest pirates in the world. To Cardi B. She started as a stripper. There's so many people in here that might be controversial or might rub people the wrong way. But sometimes that's what happens when you're a bold one, right? So I didn't want to write a book that was just like so flowery with everyone's come-ups that are clean. I wanted to showcase the people that were disruptor or dangerous.
And by being indispensable, do you mean by someone who is like capable of being able to consistently provide value? Like you're almost like you're quote unquote sold out wherever you go. Like I'm curious to know more about what you mean by indispensable, other than being bold.
Yeah. So to me, indispensable means within an organization that they almost can't. You've delivered so much value. You're the MVP of your organization that you become indispensable. The fact that you provide extraordinarily more value, disproportionately more value than for the organization. So it's like you become indispensable. At the end of the day, within any organization, most people can become dispensable. You can get somebody off the street. They might be able to do your work at 80, 90%, maybe even 100 or even better. But to be indispensable is somebody that is consistently showing up and innovating not only for themselves, but for the organization. And by innovating, you create so much value for yourself and the organization that you become indispensable. It's like, just that Good Life. You have a trainer that you have within your organization, like that this person is not only selling, but they are delivering at a high quality. They are indispensable. You cannot get rid of them.
You can't replace them.
We can't replace them, right? And so this book is really about how do you become that person? How do you become that trainer that's indispensable? That's why I wanted to write this book.
Man, this is starting to get me to realize who needs to read this book.
Yeah, who's the person?
I'm gonna guess, but I want you to be like real with us and let us know, like, if there's anyone at any stage in life where they're at, they should be in this one. And the way where my head's turning is individuals who just don't know where to start. And I find who better than someone like yourself who wrote a book where there's people's actual stories. There's people's lives that are in here that you've documented and shared how they reached that point.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what's so powerful about even what you and me do, Omen, with Second Floor is that was our whole point. Was it's like, listen, like, whatever you're all going through, whatever it is that you want to achieve, there's other people that have been in your shoes before. And I find a lot of times what we do is we start to, like, whatever it is that we're struggling with, we let that define how we need to show up in every aspect of our life. And that's why I feel like young adults, those that are going into the workplace, that are about to experience what a 40-hour
100%.
work week feels like, from what I'm experiencing is when they experience it for the first time, they let a lot of their struggles mentally or a lot of their quote unquote weaknesses overshadow what they need to do to get the job done. And then they give up.
Yeah.
So they immediately let their weaknesses define how it is they do their job. When in reality, in my opinion, that's just something that you could habitually change. You could just start breaking down, okay, I just need to change the way my habits are to ultimately show up for my minimum requirement of getting my job done. But like, I don't know what you guys think about this, but like for anyone jumping into the workforce who struggles to put all that time in, it's like, hey, read something like this and understand that like maybe you're being a little bit too hard on yourself.
Well, another thing too is I want to add to that is that, you know, when you come out of school, I mean, this was for me, is I want to make a bold impact in whatever organization that I'm in, whatever job that I'm in. But when you're in it, when you get that first job out of school, they're not giving you that role of where you can really dig your fingers and feet in. And so you're going in with all this enthusiasm, you want to make money, you want to make an impact, you're excited about your role, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're put into this role where you don't feel the impact. You kind of feel like you're just kind of doing the tedious, mundane work. So then 6, 12, 24 months in, you start questioning, why am I in this role? Why am I doing this for this company? Maybe I should look somewhere else, right? Where you want to be bold, you want to express your ideas. And I know a lot of examples where, you know, an individual who's in a decent position, is making good money, talks to their heads, their managers, their bosses, and they say, you know, I think we can do X, Y, Z better. This system is working, but it could be better. And the old heads are like, no, this is the system. It's working.
Totally.
This is how it's working.
You're describing just every organization.
Exactly. Just do what you're told, please.
Yes.
And so now you want to be bold. You want to make an impact. You think you can do it better, and they just don't. They don't see it that way. And so there's also that balance internally as a person who wants to make an impact but can't within that system.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, and I love those. That's exactly who I wrote the book for. In fact, I don't want anybody to read this book that doesn't want to be bold. In fact, if you go to Chapters today and you see this book and you don't want to innovate your life, if you don't want to be bold, don't pick up this book. This book is not for you. This book is for the people that are willing to be a little bit more dangerous at work, that want to create a better future for themselves, for their family, for their organization, and that's who I wrote the book for. So yeah, absolutely.
If you were bold enough, Shawn, to restructure a large corporate organization, and us talking about this, where there's a clear divide, there's a clear miscommunication happening in a lot of corporate companies.
Yeah.
Where it's like telephone, right? It's like, here's what we want to do, and it's out of good faith, and it's coming from upstairs by all the corporate execs. And then now when we bring it down the chain, it's just getting a little bit more muddied. And then now on the bottom line, let's just hope that it got delivered in that same passionate way in which we want things to be executed. Is this still the right way of going about things? Or if you could sit down with like every like CEO of every major corporate entity and be like, guys, we need to be bold. We need to change some things up.
Yeah.
What would be like a tangible change you would make to corporate companies where this is clearly, with what we're all talking about, a problem?
Yeah. No, I would say that it comes down to allowing people the permission to go off and try something new, right? Whether you're on the ground floor, where you're wherever you are within the chain, within the organization, it's like, how do you empower somebody and give them the room, the flexibility, and then build that into their compensation or performance management to say, how can you go off and take a small chance, right? And so that to me is like the best way of fueling this idea of innovation within an organization. So you have to give people like a little bit of license to try things, yeah.
So glad you said that. And I'm actually going to give you an example.
Okay.
So one of my trainers, this guy, Scott Collins. If you're looking for a trainer, go to Scott Collins.
Shout out Scott Collins, okay.
He's a beauty, man. Like, picture my energy times 1,000. Like,
Yeah.
he's like bounces off the walls with how excited he gets, right? So he comes into my office one day, and mind you, if I was following policy, yes, I'm calling myself out right now, he most likely would not be allowed to do this.
Yeah.
But he goes, Kenny, I want to change some things up. You know, with like networking with members and getting in touch with them, I'm just doing the same thing, going around the gym, trying to say hi to people. It's not working. I was like, okay, Scott, what do you want to do? He's like, okay, I'm going to ask for your permission. Can I go to the washroom? And can I just open up the ironing, like the table? And can I just ask people if I can iron their shirts?
Yeah.
Like just, you know, before they go to work, just do it in the morning. I notice a lot of people, suit and tie, you know, they're going to get their workout in and then they're going to work. And he says, I just want to iron their shirts if they'll allow me. And then I could just kind of ask them about their goals and see if they want to do a consultation. So in my head, I'm thinking, that's pretty innovative, bold idea. I've never had someone approach me and ask that. And my other side of my brain went, oh, he could get in a lot of shit for this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you know, you've got invasive, a little bit privacy. Like, people don't want to be bothered in the washroom. So what do you think I did?
I don't know.
I said, you know what, Scott? If you can do it and you have enough confidence and you do it respectfully, fuck yeah, man, let's do this.
Nice.
So he does it, and it actually goes really well. He's booking consults, he's meeting people, but then obviously when you're going to do something bold, you're shaking, you're stirring the pot a little.
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
And all it took was one person to complain. And then they said, I don't like how like there's someone in there while I'm trying to change, and they're asking people to book. Like, come on, that's a washroom, it's a private spot.
Right.
But what I really
So
appreciate.
did he stop?
He had to stop it,
Okay,
of
okay,
course,
okay.
right? But what I appreciate about that story is here's somebody who's actually bold enough to be like, okay, here's a traditional way about
Yeah,
going
yeah.
about things. I'm bored of it now. I have an idea, and can I try it? And I found that that was my moment in a position of leadership to allow someone to do something that they are now even more excited to do because it's based off an idea that they personally had.
Yeah.
But here's another thing too, is you allowing him to take that idea now will not stop him from bringing up more ideas. You know what I mean? So I think
Very valid.
I think if the moment you crush that idea, that person now is not willing to go to their boss or their manager or their leader and say, hey, you know, I think this we should try this idea. We should try that. The moment you crush that idea, they're done. They're checked out because they're like, oh, you know what? My ideas are not valid.
Yeah, I think there's one piece missing here, and I talk about it in the book, which is really that the idea that, you know, as a bold one, it's not only just being bold, it's actually also marketing. Like you have to develop an element of marketing, right? Storytelling, narratives, because there's so many reasons why people may not like your idea, but if you market it in a way that your supervisors, your bosses, or the people around you are accepting it, then that is, it's just more likely that people will accept your idea. So I think, you know, part of the reason why I wrote this book was not only for people to be bold, but to say, how do you go about telling your stories? How do you go about telling the right narrative around, you know, what you're doing? And, you know, you guys know in terms of, I mean, you know best in terms of even being a rapper, even being in the music game. It's not just about your product and being bold, but it's how do you package that around yourself, right? How do you package being a great artist? And I think that's such a big piece that everyone misses. And I was gonna ask you, because I've been actually talking to a lot of my friends about this, which is, as you know, being in Edmonton, can you make it as a musician in Edmonton and be on the global stage? Is that even possible?
Yeah, I think so. I think obviously now with with social media, I think you can do anything. The opportunity is there. I think now more so than ever, it's just a matter of being creative enough, bold enough to do something different to get that attention to you. Because everybody's posting their music, everybody's posting their creative works, but how do you market it in a way where it catches people's attention? How do you garner that attention? And maybe it's a slight tweak, maybe it's a little secret, maybe it's that little, the change in scenery, maybe it's odd, it's different, it's controversial, it's whatever that is. I think at this point, especially, I personally believe that, the whole thing of A-list and B-list celebrities, like, you don't have to be an A-list celebrity to make it in the game of music.
I would argue that there is no A-list celebrities anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, new celebrity. There's no A-list new celebrities now.
Right.
That were created over the last number of years. Like the A celebrities, for example, in music, are what? Taylor Swift, Drake, Beyonce. But like, is Jack Harlow, Dua Lipa, Billie Eilish, like the people that sort of made it now, are they A-list? Like, does your mom know who Dua Lipa is?
Exactly.
So I just feel like today you have to. It's not about the millions or billions of followers. I think that era is over. I think you can only gain followers and fans within a small group, right? Within your 1,000 people, or within 1 million people. But they are your fans. Like, they are your hardcore fans.
Your tribe.
Right? I think that is the new game now.
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot of independent artists. There's a lot of independent artists out there right now that are doing their thing. They're not even in the mainstream. They're making a lot of money. They're going on tour. They got their own little teams. That's great. You can make it.
Exactly.
But how do you push yourself out of, and that's one thing that artists lack, is especially independent artists, and it's not the fault of their own, where you don't have the resources, you don't have the mics, the cameras, whatever the case may be. How do you use the resources? How do you turn shit into sugar? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what 50 Cent said a lot. When he was coming up in the game, he didn't have resources. He didn't have companies backing him. How did he make his music? Well, he had to figure out in his environment how to make that music, how to get his mixtapes out on the streets.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
you're
the same.
hustling.
It's hustling.
Constantly.
So how do you do it now? Well, TikTok right now, right? Doing things online, doing the short clips, the being aware of the environment today and using what you have in your hands
100%.
in order to take yourself to the next level. And you can literally push yourself into that. You can force yourself into that space if you wanted to.
So like, I'm trying to fucking sell something right now. I'm trying to sell this book. And the question is, I wrote this book. I put my blood, sweat, and tears into this thing. Years of unbelievable stories and insights. Like, this book is something that people have never seen before, okay? It's a business book I include hip hop, pop culture, modern days. There's a lot. But how do you package it? How do you get everybody to see it? So like, for example, I have a traditional publisher, God bless McGraw-Hill. They're very traditional. But I'm trying to be bold. I'm trying to not only tell stories in a different way through this, but I'm trying to package it in a different way. So like, one of the things that I'm doing is like, I've got like hundreds of TikTok creators, so that when this launches, they're going to be creating content around this and like, putting out, like, nobody has ever kind of done that. I'm taking like the Andrew Tate model of selling a book. But let's like trying to find new ways of doing that, and also like trying to market this and package this in a way, right? And you guys know, like, for me, packaging is so important. That's why we're doing this thing in a theater. That's why we've done everything in a theater. That's why we have good cameras. That's why we have B-roll. Like, I want this to look good, because when it looks good, the message shows up.
This reminds me of that one movie. I don't remember the name of it, but if anyone can reference it, that'd be brilliant. But it's the ABC model. Is always be closing.
Oh, Glengarry.
Yeah, Glengarry, right? But when you are both talking about that, it just is a reminder, especially for those listening, is anything that you've created, any product or service that you offer. Let's just say, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Let's just say it's your branded shirt that you wear. You're a Good Life associate. You're wearing a red t-shirt. How quick are you to change that shirt by the time you walk out those doors? How proud are you to walk into a convenience store or go to the mall wearing that shirt? So if you're not personally obsessed with the product or service that you've created or offering, then how the fuck do you believe anyone else is going to want to buy it off you? You know what I mean? Like what both of you are saying, I love it. It's like, let's just take the traditional.
Let me just hold this book right now, baby. Let me just hold this book right now, baby.
Man is a fucking genius because look at what he's done. He's taking the current traditional, unique way of advertising a product and he's getting people involved and having a conversation around it. How is that any different than when I was in New York at 10 years old and I had a guy named Lil Home Slice. That was his rap name, Lil Home Slice. And he had CDs like just wrapped around him, like taped around his waist. And he's like, y'all fam, you listen to rap music? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, who you listen to? I'm like, I listen to 50. He's like, yeah, you gotta listen to Lil Home Slice. And $9.99. I was like, yo, like I'll never forget that moment. But that's what he had to do back in 2007. To make a name for himself.
Yeah.
He was thinking, how do I get my product out there? No one knows my product, but I am not embarrassed and I'm actually excited to go out and prospect, even when it is in the most non-traditional way.
Yeah.
And it's because he loves and cares about the company or product or service that he's created and representing. And I think that's important with what we're talking about, because if you right now are listening to this and you're embarrassed to walk out with the name of your company or your own product, then you're not bold enough.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, I was wearing my second floor hoodie yesterday.
Respect.
And hey, I love, by the way, I don't know if there's a code, there's merch. Second floor merch.
We need to order more.
Yeah. No, but like, you know, that's why I love what you guys have done with the pod, right? Like you've elevated to the second floor, you know, the production game and the audio game, video game around this. And, you know, that's just a level of effort that you put in. And, you know, we always talk about how much work this thing is, right? And and people see it, right? That's why people want to come on your pod, right? That's why people want to be featured, is because they see the effort, right? And, you know, you guys have created sort of a brand around second floor that people want to attach themselves to. Like, I'm like, you know, putting out this book, it's going to be all over the world, and I'm here on the Second Floor podcast because I know that this is you guys have put in the love and the effort around your pod. So I'm here for it.
I'm glad you said that, man, because it's such a reminder to see, like, we're all in this room at, you know, we talk about elevating, getting to the next level a lot. And I think it's really beautiful that we now are at a point where we're offering what we are still talking about from a different medium, right? Like for Shawn, it's the bold ones. It's this book. It's taking things that you love talking about and applying it in just a different way of communicating and connecting with that subject matter.
Yeah.
Right? Like, knowing you for the past 3 years, I would connect with what you're obsessed about talking about on YouTube, right? On your keynotes, on podcasts. Now I can do it in a book format.
Yeah, and audiobook, yeah.
And audio, yes. I'm excited for the audio.
Audiobook, yeah.
Because it's your voice, right?
It's my voice, yeah. It's going to be delicious.
It's like Goggin style. I love it.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be good.
But bringing it back, this is the same thing that I would argue when we personally had the Universal Radio Network reach out to us.
Yeah.
And to be on the radio.
Yeah.
It was an obvious right away quick yes, but then sometimes you do have that risk consultant that comes in your head.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, like how much is this taking me away from the podcast? But then ultimately it was a no-brainer because we're now doing something very similar. We're expanding our audience and we're having very similar conversations on a completely different network.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is a no-brainer why we should capitalize on this.
But let me tell you something about the radio.
I feel like a DJ.
Okay, listen. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't listen to radio.
Yeah.
I only listen to things on Spotify or Apple Music. So I need to get these. I need to see Second Floor on Spotify. Radio? What do you mean radio? No, I'm not. I'm sure it's great.
There's actually.
I just been trying to. I swear to God, I've been trying to listen to the radio show. I was in LA and I texted Omen. I'm like, I can't listen to this in LA. Oh. Anyways, that's a small thing. I'm sure you guys figured it out.
True.
And the video, but what made you guys popular is the video, right? That is, and once you guys, and it's a lot of work, but that's what made you guys popular. And once you keep doubling down on that, it's gonna it's gonna explode. I mean, I'm just saying. Listen, and you're having guests on, and I keep on telling you, Omid, and now we're getting really deep in the pod because I keep on telling you guys, no one cares about me. They care about you and you guys are so good on the pod. You're getting these guests. You're getting a Shawn Kanungo. Nobody cares about Shawn Kanungo. They care about your insights and what you guys are saying, and it's really about you because you guys are so smart. You're so brilliant. You're great on the mic. You're great on camera. Your vibe together is amazing, and we need more you.
Respect. No, we do.
Respect.
You know what, man? Next business meeting, we're gonna have to change up the strategy a little bit, man.
Yeah. No,
I've been telling you guys.
Yeah,
this
he's been saying it since day one, though.
Oh no, of course.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I'm gonna be honest, right? Like, we get a lot of inquiries about, hey man, like, how do we start a podcast? You know, what do we do to create one? This and that. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I hope this kind of brings it back to what I truly meant about you're always aspiring to chase that GOAT status. I hope I always feel that way. I'll still believe that to this day, no matter where I'm at in life. But yes, you do make a point. I'm at a point now where, yes, we know enough. We have enough experience where it can be more Qashus and Kenny.
Yep.
But in the beginning, I felt so much that I need to get the hang of having a conversation on air with someone
Right.
comfortably.
I love it.
And make another person
Yes.
feel special while I'm trying to get the hang of this process.
Yep.
Right? And I need to see how someone who I believe is where they are at the top of their industry and see how they are communicating. See how their like mannerisms. I'm big into that. A lot of people, like, when they're trying to figure out why I do the pre-interview, outside of me just trying to figure out what you want to talk about, I'm seeing how you're behaving. I'm seeing when you're pausing. I'm seeing how you're talking.
Yeah.
And how you're carrying yourself.
I like what you're saying because I think what you guys did over the last number of years is that you almost didn't know what the hell you were doing, right? Yeah. And so now you've put in the reps to understand what works, and you need to go through this period of, like, you know, just going through the grind, going through the years of people just maybe even wondering what the fuck are people doing or what are you guys doing, and then you know, then it goes off like a rocket ship. I talk about this idea of you know, the 4 words that have crushed an entire generation, which is what will people say, right? And when you start something new, you start a podcast, you start rapping, you start, you know, doing personal fitness, things that your parents probably were like, what are you guys doing? These 4 words have crushed an entire generation. And then when you're in the mud, it's actually lonely. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. I'm doing something that most people are not doing. And you're doing it for years. And then people are like, what the hell are you doing? But then when the rocket ship starts to go, they're like, oh, then they're like, oh, I knew that person. I knew him. I was there the whole time. Like, no, you weren't. You were talking shit when I was in the mud.
Man, I'm so glad you said that because you're going to miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
And how many people, I've been guilty of this, decide to not say something or do something until it, in your head, is perfect. And so many people, they strive to be perfect. I'm a big believer in you're never going to be perfect. Accept that. But strive to do your best to get as close to perfect as possible.
But
You know?
but going back, did the people around you when you started doing whatever you're doing, okay, let's say around whether it was the pod or video or music, did people come up to be like, yo, can you just get a regular job? Like, can you just be an accountant?
I remember people were unfriending me off Facebook because this was back in the day.
Oh my God.
People were unfriending me off Facebook. They're like, yo, you're that, stick to your lane, bro. You're not a rapper. You're not this media guy. Don't stop posting this stuff. I remember specifically. I wish I would have screenshotted the messages to have it to this day. Because that back then, it was Omid, the undergrad student, just science, you know, typical brown guy.
Yep.
Right? But when you start implementing, doing videos and sticking a camera in people's faces and doing pranks, and I did everything in the book. When YouTube started, I have the old prank videos. I have
wow.
I have
I
them
gotta
all.
see the prank
I did
videos.
vlogs. I did everything.
Oh, wow.
I experimented. Like what you're talking about like just trying shit. That's what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wait, why am like, because the pranks were popping off, because the vlogs were popping off, I wanted to try those things. But then I was like, what do I always go back to? it's always the music. I always go back into the studio. That's really what I love.
And I would say that without doing the prank stuff and doing all those videos, you wouldn't be able to do what you do today, which is understand how to use video, understand how to engage a particular audience, whether it's through music or through video. Like, you had to go what I call like a wasteful journey. Like, you have to go through these years of wastefulness, exploring, playing, experimenting, which many people would think is a waste, but then you put it all together and then you exploit it.
So you know what that is? That's what I call the white belt mentality, right?
The white belt mentality.
Yeah,
Okay,
I want you to understand this. In
okay.
jiu-jitsu specifically, once someone gets blue belt, which is the next belt after white, there's a lot of people that stop.
Yeah.
They quit jiu-jitsu because as a white belt, your whole entire experience throughout getting to that point is everything you both said. Experimentation, failing miserably, getting choked out and getting tapped out in positions you've never been in. But same thing is like uncharted territory. I'm about to go into something. I have no idea what it's like, but is it going to make me better? Yes. So then that's why I just love martial arts and examples related to it, because all the way up until the journey to black belt,
right,
you are consistently perfecting. You're on the pursuit of perfecting your craft. But white belt arguably is the toughest belt. Is it not? Right? You attempting to have an idea of writing a book and sitting there first, Shawn, going, what is it going to be about? Right? And then trying to construct and build a plan around it, arguably, in my opinion, I think that's the toughest part. The easy part is, okay, now I know. I have a structure. I have a base. I know what I'm building this off of. Now let me get in the flow.
Right.
Right? But the hardest thing is starting.
Yeah.
The most difficult part is just getting those initial reps in something that's so new to you and so scary. And that's why majority of the people quit right in the beginning, because that's when it's easiest. That's when you could say shit like, it's not for me, it's too hard. Or when people say this, I know if I kept at it or if I continued it, I'd be really good. Right. What the fuck then? Why don't you keep doing it? Why are you letting your ego get hurt because every day you show up to practice and you get submitted?
Right.
Because you don't like to lose.
Right.
But I want to go back to what you said, or you guys were talking about play, right? When you talk about Stephen Curry, when you talk about when you're in the tournament and you're thinking about play. Well, you can't get to play without going through the apprenticeship phase. Robert Greene talks about this a lot in his book Mastery. He's talking about mastery and whatnot. But I'm sure you probably mentioned some of this in your book.
Yes,
Shawn,
I definitely do. Yeah.
But basically,
Bold ones, December 6th.
December 6th, baby. Get your copy and listen to the audio.
Forget Robert Greene, Shawn Kanungo. Okay, but yeah. Okay, go on.
There's three different parts in people's journeys. He talks about, right? The apprenticeship phase,
yep,
the active phase, and then the creative active phase, which is the play.
Oh.
So I think in any, like you said, the wasteful journey is the apprenticeship phase.
Yes.
I'm figuring out what is pranks. I'm still doing video. I don't know what video is. I'm doing it for other people. I'm painting. I'm painting on a blank canvas. I don't know what the hell I'm painting. And then all of a sudden it starts becoming, I got the reps in. I can paint a face. I can do this. I made videos. How does the lighting work? Audio. What? Now I should get a better audio. Lenses. How does that work, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with any journey in any industry you're in. And then all of a sudden, once you've put in those years, you get to a point where you're, all right, now I can experiment with all this foundation I have.
Yeah.
I can play. You probably go into a tournament now and you're like, I want to try this on this guy. I want to do.
I'm so glad you said that, bro, because I couldn't play as a white belt. I couldn't play.
You can play as a white belt because you're just trying to get the structure down.
Right.
I'm so glad you said that, man, because now when you flip the script and you look at a leader who needs to respectfully understand that your brand new employee is in their apprenticeship phase, I'm guilty of this. I was guilty of this tremendously. Do not overwhelm your apprentice.
Right.
Show them the menu, train them on everything that they're going to eventually master over the years. But then once training's done, step one, let's teach you all the buttons on a camera. Right? Step one, let's just teach you how to train someone how to do a squat. Let's just say in the personal training industry. But I have been guilty of overwhelming my apprentices with, okay, now that you know a little bit of everything, now go do a little bit of everything as best you can. That's stressful.
Totally.
Right? It's like, let's just take one component of the thousands of things you're going to learn. Let's get really good at that. Okay, awesome. Next step. Let's now get good at sales. Because now that you got in front of people and you know how to train them for a certain duration of time, let's learn how you could allow this person to understand the need of being with you for a whole year. But first, let's have you train someone for 2 weeks. Let's have you know what that's like. Because how can I expect you to like convince someone to be with you for 1 year of training if you don't know how to train them for the first 2 weeks? So in my opinion, I blame myself on that as a leader because I started to overwhelm my newly onboarded trainers. And I'm really glad you said that, man, because it's a reminder for me to realize that, like, okay, one step at a time, right? Otherwise, they're checked out.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
100%. Well, I mean, I think, you know, when it comes to the idea of, I guess, the idea of play or you know, I just, and I wrote this in the book, which is, I believe that once you find that, then you can find your hot streak. Like you can do your best work. You can do your most prolific, your most innovative work when you find that area of play. Like that's when you put out the #1 hits. That's when you're just, you know, on top of the world, right? And in the book I talk about how do you engineer this hot streak, right? Like I feel like in my career right now, I'm in a hot streak. Like I'm in the moment, I'm in the pocket. So I'm trying to think about how do I maximize this moment at the same time recognizing that at some point I need to continue to disrupt myself. I need to find and continue to play so that I can find my next hot streak, right? I think there was like some research that these scientists pulled together last year in 2021. They tried to find answer this question, what triggers hot streak? Like why are some people so prolific during a short period of time? And what they discovered is that you have to go through these wasteful journeys, but what they discovered is that even though people have a hot streak, they only have one in their career. I want to have multiple. And the only way of having multiple hot streaks to do unbelievable work is you have to go through these moments of just like wasteful journeys. So like, even though I feel like I'm in a hot streak now, I just like, I'm recognizing like, oh, like this is not going to last forever. So in order for me to have the next one, I need to like find that next thing, right?
Man, wow. That mentality is so important to have. It reminds me of how not everyone thinks this way, right? Like I'm gonna give you kind of like the other side of the table, and I don't know how you feel about it. I was at Rupi Kaur yesterday.
Yeah, my wife was there too.
Yeah, it was quite brilliant, right? And she said something that kind of struck a chord towards me where I was like, oh my goodness, I'm that guy. And she's just talking about in her poem, right? She's like, oh, we live in a society and we live in a community where we need to constantly be elevating and we need to constantly, she's using second floor podcast words.
Yeah.
Right? Like we need to take things to the next level. I'm like, say second floor. Say second floor. Then, but it's like, it was such a like wake up call where she's like, but isn't having a table to sit on and eating breakfast enough? Isn't having a friend to call and say I love you plenty? Isn't going to the one that you are next to in bed if you have the opportunity to, you know, be in love with someone right now? Isn't that enough? And going back to the whole hot streak thing is it reminded me of how I operate, where once I accomplish something, don't get me wrong, I'll soak up in it, but the very next day I go, what's next? And it pulled at my heartstrings a little bit when she said that, because I was like, I'm always wanting more than what I currently have. And what I have right now is really good. And sometimes I do need to create that balance of recognizing that if I keep going in that mentality of trying to capitalize on the next hot streak, how much is it pulling me away from who is currently in my life? And I don't know what you think about that, right?
Listen, by the way, I mentioned Rupi Kaur just slightly in here because I think she actually has done something really cool, which is
amazing.
You know, she took her Instagram poetry, she created a new category of what she was doing. So I'm impressed and just in awe of what she did. I was like trying to ask my wife all these questions. I'm like, okay, so how was it? Blah blah blah. She went with the girls, so you were like the only guy there, probably.
Dude, there was some other guys there. I was impressed.
Okay,
yeah,
you guys.
It was nice.
Yeah. No, I get it. Listen, some people, they just want to chill and enjoy the family and the people around them. I do too. Like, I want to enjoy. But to me, human beings are wired to be problem solvers. We are wired to explore, to learn. And if you remain stagnant, if you remain mediocre in what you are doing, then it's going to impact other parts of your life. Like, you have to keep learning and you have to keep moving, because otherwise you're going to get in a state where you're accepting, I would say mediocrity or the status quo. And which is fine, but the problem today is the world is moving too quickly. And if you stay stagnant, you're not going to learn, you're not going to connect with other people, and that's just anti-human. Humans are supposed to explore. That's in our DNA. So if we stop doing that, then I think we're not being human.
Well, what if it can be better than you imagine, right? So you're saying you're good today. You're good, but what if it could be better, right? And a lot of people, especially our age, we get to a point where our careers are good, we're making decent money, we got good relationships around us. It's like, I'm good. Why should I be bold here? Why should 100%. I experiment here? I'm good here. This bubble is fine.
Yeah. I think we're circling back to when I started talking about this book and who this is for. Actually, this book is not for the people that just want to chill. This book is not just to look over whatever Rupi said. That's actually one path, and I don't disrespect that path. Most of my friends are on that path. This book is only for the people that want more. This book is only for the people that said, what if something is way better than I ever imagined? What if I did something and it's way better than ever I imagined? What if I want to do something else? What if I want to explore? This book is for the 20%. I don't want the 80% to buy this book, because they're going to be unhappy reading it. They're going to be like, oh my God, there's a lot to do. So yeah, I think there's two paths. There's that path that you talked about, and there's this path.
There really is, and I appreciate you both saying that, right? It's crazy that you talked about the whole learning concept, because I fuck with that heavily lately, where it's just like, you know what?
It's the first time ever it's like, yo, that learning, I fuck with that.
I know it's so simple, but it's like, man, like an unfulfilled life, is that a life worth living? Right? And a fulfilled life is if you are constantly expanding your comfort zone and you're actually learning something, but you're applying it. So I'll tell you what we're all guilty of, right? We are guilty of absorbing ourselves with so much content. Like Shawn said, the world's moving fast. We can have upwards of, we can fill our whole day with filling ourselves up with content.
Yeah.
But now, if I decide the next day and future onwards to not do anything with that information, to not sit down with my friends, let them know what I saw, share with them my personal opinions around it, then what am I doing? Wasting my time absorbing all this content.
Yeah.
I'm just letting time pass.
Yeah, I think content without execution is entertainment.
You have to apply it. You have to fucking take your content and you got to write a book about all the content that you're seeing. And that's you know what I mean? So December 6th.
Which is actually December 6th, which is actually just creating more content. No, I'm actually hoping that when somebody reads this book, by the way, this is actually a great luxury piece too. You don't need to read this book actually. You can just have it in your house. just have it there. Just be like, yo, what's that?
So next time you have your coffee, don't forget bold ones. So this Christmas, buy bold ones and get 20% off coffee beans free at your local Starbucks.
Yeah. No, but what I was saying was that I can't remember what you were saying.
No, I just feel like it's going back to the whole learning concept and applying it. Right?
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. To me, like, really the reason why you write a book is not for people to read it, is for you to do something with it. And if one person, to me, success is one person reads this book. I sell 1 million copies of this, and one person reaches out to me and be like, yo, I read your book, and now I'm the senior manager of my Walmart. I'm happy. Because that one person actually went off and executed and did something different. And to me, that's a success.
Can I flip it open and read the first sentence I see?
Please.
I love doing this with books. Step 1, whoa, declare independence. So I'm going to read one paragraph.
Sure, please.
All right? We're going to do a little sneak peek.
Yeah. Do it dramatically, please.
So, how do we take advantage of this era of one? We've got to be known for something. Separate of our careers and our employers. In a phrase, we must declare independence.
I love that. And by the way, just to riff on this piece around independence, it's like everyone works for an organization, but I feel like everybody should create their own IP in a way. They should create their own intellectual property. Now, maybe that IP goes back to the organization, but to me, your likeness, your brand, your voice, your personality on top of that piece of that asset that you build, that's how you're gonna be indispensable at the end of the day. It's like that's the piece that's the Kenny piece. Like Kenny is known for that particular training program, or Omen is known for this particular style of video. He's the Cole Bennett of this. Like you become known for something within your organization, that's declaring independence even though you are dependent on an organization. So that's the idea of declared independence. You know what I should do? I should read the book and then I should create I should do the director's cut of it. But anyways, guys, I want to say this because we're running out of time. This is the fullest version of me. And the reason why I love having you guys chat about this book is because this is for us. This is for our generation. This is hip hop. This is pop culture. This is inspiration. It's business. It's everything that's packed into this book. This is my mind in this freaking book. And I'm just like so happy to share this with you guys and your audience, and because you guys have been inspiring me, and that's why I wanted to kind of bring you out to the theater again and do this. So I appreciate it, boys.
That's awesome, man. No, thank you so much, Shawn. Honestly, on the real, like for us, 4 years into doing podcasting and you being one of our first 15 guests at the time, and just to see where we felt you were at then, being like the cream of the crop of, keynote speaking and talking about disruption and innovation, and what you've been able to do since then to continuously just prove that you're not stopping, and that, out of all that since, Forbes highlighting you as virtual keynote speaker of the year, you pumping out a book, all along the way, you now finally getting back to in-person keynotes. And it just shows, man, that in order to be bold, you never stop. You're relentless. You're constantly, as you mentioned, pushing the needle forward to get yourself in a position where you're constantly learning. And it's just so cool, man, to like be here with you and always check in with you, on our show, and just to like keep being big fans that we are of what you're doing out there. So we're super excited, man, to bring it back to you. Everyone's probably itching to figure out where they could get a copy, when they can. Please share with us how we can get our hands on the bold ones before the holidays.
So what I would recommend, go into a bookstore. Any bookstore, Chapters, Barnes & Nobles, wherever you are, walk in, buy the book there. Of course, you can get it on Amazon. Of course, you get the audiobook on Audible and other places. But yeah, and then buy 2 or 3. And like I said before, it's a great luxury piece. It's a great stance. Actually, buy 10 and just line them up just like this. So
I want you or one of your representatives on your team to set up a booth at Good Life Fitness and ask people, hey, what does being bold mean to you? Side by side with me there. And let's get the microphone in front of people and let's get them to buy some copies.
Let's do it.
Your people will talk to my people and we'll make something happen.
Let's do it.
That's awesome. Well, gentlemen, you know what? That is final ending notes here. I'd like to just bring it over to Qashus. Anything you'd like to say, my friend?
No, I'm good, man. That's a wrap.
Let's go to the second floor.
Woo!
All right. Thank you, boys.
That's awesome, man. That was great.
Thank you. That was awesome.
I love that. We really
That was
got
good.
the flow there.